I really want to thank the organizers for this gathering. And given the scale of the unrest around the world, and especially the Middle East, and we can geographically situate ourselves today on the Gaza Strip, the conflict between Israel and Palestine. But I'm not discouraged about this small group, because it has always been the small groups that have moved the mountains. So I'm glad that you came, and I'm glad that you're here, because each of you represent a community that you can take this message of peace. Now tonight, I didn't come alone. Anybody knows me knows that I've never been a soloist. Before I begin, I want to read Princess Basma's word to you. I could sort of edited it, but I want you to hear her broken English based on her Arabic tongue. Due to unfortunate illness, I could not be present today, so my soulmate and sister Marcia will deliver my message to the world. When I light the candle in my heart, thousands of miles away, I will be with you in spirit, but remembering the souls of billions of humans on earth with the purity of an angel, of guardians of humanity. Not only to pray and join hands with you, but to unite our forces of light, to conquer the darkness which is prevailing just now. Because our light is dispersed around the world, we need to be one so that we can be the sun and the beam of light, so the world won't fall in the belly of death. Without God's blessing us, we will lose it all. Let us be the army that uses prosperity and dialogue instead of droids and nuclear weapons. The world is heading towards the autumn of humanity and the freezing cold of winter with hatred as a weapon. I put my soul in the light I was privileged as a royal to have into the fourth law way that will regulate the imbalances of our world that we live in, of hunger and prosperity, of poverty that reigns and calls the upheaval everywhere. Prayers and goodness should no more lurk in the poles of our planet, but be a loud thunder of your voices, my voices, and a powerful lightning that will become a force that can prevail over the darkness and stop the earthquakes caused by those who want to silence our plea for peace and reform. If I could light the candle with you today, I would do it with my spirit and all of my soul. Though thousands of miles away, as I have said, I light it with kindred spirits from around the globe. Every drop of wax that will be equivalent to the millions who share the pain of being voiceless, who await the awakening of their governments so they don't burn slowly like a real candle. My message is that politics will prevail, but let the politics be for humanity, not for politics, for power, for money. And the fourth way law will lighten their way to know how politics can serve humanity and not the other way around. Let us unite today to be the sun and the strong beam of light where the true spring will prevail, where humans and nature come together to a new birth of beauty, tranquility, and stability, not wars that will destroy us regardless of our color, gender, or religion. Today we send to the world the energy and faith to believe that the purpose of the divine is the goodness within each one of us to prevail over the forces of darkness. So what I want to appeal to as an African-American woman who's been influenced by Islam, who has been influenced by Judaism, who has been influenced by the African-American struggle even today, remind each and every one of you to use this opportunity to be the example the way the civil rights example was to Dr. King and the rest of us, as Gandhi was to Dr. King, to know that peace must be everywhere, because you can have peace, but that's not the absence of war. What about the children of Palestine? What about the soldiers in Israel who may be incarcerate about their neighbors? What about the mothers who have lost their sons and their daughters on both sides? How can peace heal that broken heart? When the land is healed, when the blood is washed away, and when governance everywhere in the world stand up and do the right thing for its people. No more war, no more war, no more war, no more poverty, no more disavowing the sensibilities of other people's souls and their cultures. It is not just about Palestine and Israel, my Jewish and Palestinian friends. The Middle East right now is a metaphor for the way the whole world is. And the way I see it as a black woman, it is an extreme case of domestic violence. Only thing, we must identify who the abuser is. And when we do that, be a passionate courtroom. Love the abuser, because that person or that entity itself has been wounded because of their own history. But also remember those who have been spousally abused, whether it's a man or woman on the other side of intolerance and injustice and poverty and the lack of. We need a broader scope and a broader courtroom of compassion. So I'm here because I want to use the hotbed of the Palestinian and the Israeli conflict to talk about Chicago, to talk about Syria, to talk about Congo, to talk about Haiti, to talk about everywhere where children cannot sleep. The most terrifying thing to me, Harriet, was when I was at that campsite in Syria. And as I saw the hundreds of thousands of trailers blank with no form of color to it, nothing that struck the awe of God in anybody who lived there, I noticed predominantly the children there. Unlike my kids in Haiti that had kites and culture and art to will themselves out of the post-earthquake era, there was nothing. And so when I got into that trailer to talk to the military men and the men of the UNCHR, and I said, you know, okay, we heard all of that, and I know it's superficial, but what can I do for the children? Can we bring crayons and coloring books and toys and kites or something for the boys and girls to do? And they said, shh, shh. And I said, okay, maybe it's a lost in translation. I don't speak Arabic very well, or, you know, German, because some people there were German. I said, okay, well, can we bring crayons, you know, like this? And I held up a marker. And when I left out, the military person told me, Marcia, you got to be quiet, because the combatants, you know, come back into their homes. They don't want the children sad and the women of sorrow, so they don't mind dying, the women not caring. So what I saw was the incubation of future terrorists, not there, but it maybe hit home in Chicago, that when children are made absent of the characterization of a childhood, you have terrorists in the Middle East, you have terrorists in America, you have terrorists all the world, and not for the children's sake, but for governance sake, because these children, whether impoverished or not, will one day, out of the mass of them, become a world leader whose heart has become calcitrant, because nobody cared to bring them color, but more importantly, nobody brought to them a sense of the awe of God. This is not a political gathering, neither is it a faith gathering. But I'm telling you, my faith is an active faith. Like hope, like prosperity, like peace is something that must be acted upon to get an end result. So I'm asking you, brothers and sisters of Palestine, brothers and sisters of Israel, brothers and sisters, no matter where you are, to use the hotbed media moment to be an example, the way the civil rights movement was to every other movement in America, the way Gandhi was to King, to use this mostly like an icing up on a cake unbaked, with a candlelight that must be lit, not for the celebration of the possibility of peace in the Middle East, but for around the world. Eso Wiso said, sometimes we must interfere. That's why this Negro woman is here today, because I want to interfere. He said, sometimes we must interfere when human lives are endangered, when human dignity is in jeopardy, national borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Wherever men and women, he didn't say Jewish men, he didn't say Jewish women, he didn't say Palestinian, he didn't say African American, he didn't say Indian, he didn't say Pakistani, he didn't say Haitian, he didn't say South American. He said wherever men and women are persecuted because of their race, their religion, or political views, that place, this place right here in America, this place in this park right now with you, at that moment, become the center of our universe. And I want this center of the universe to shine.